Hello and welcome to today's 10-minute episode of The Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day, CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, specialist payroll and HR recruiters. Today we are joined by Louise Bhatia, Head of Delivery at SilverCloud HR, and Charlotte Yardley, who joins me as Head of Partner Success at Sage People. And today we're going to be talking all about implementation, project lifecycle pitfalls, considerations, and best practice. I'm going to start with the basics. So if I'm an HR or payroll leader listening to the show right now, and I'm considering that implementation or digitization or transformation project, before I dive right into it, can you both sort of outline to me some of the key stages of what an implementation project might look like?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's really important that when you embark on your implementation, you approach it in a really structured way. Most of the vendors that will be implementing with you will come to you with a methodology, and it's oftentimes unique to them, but broadly it will follow one of 4 or 5 key stages. So the first stage is all about setting up your project, initiating it, and really setting the cornerstones for success. So bottoming out how you will work together, having a really robust plan in place, and making sure that you have the resources in place to make sure you have a successful delivery. Once that's set in stone, and it's really important to spend some time focusing on that together with your vendor, you'll then move into what we often call discovery. So this is really where you start bottoming out exactly what you want your system to do and deliver for you. So your vendor will work with you to explain how the system can deliver your processes and meet your organizational policy points. But there's also the opportunity here to really think about how you're going to improve your current processes. So how you will move forward from where you are to do today and be more streamlined. So you'll workshop those together, again breaking it down into topic areas, all the way from hire to retire, and then once that's been documented, your vendor will take that away and ultimately build your solution. At that point, this is where you really get into the hard work as a customer, because once that solution is delivered back to you, then you'll go through the process of testing. And this is key to really bottoming out what is working well and what isn't, and making sure that what actually is being delivered is what you're expecting to see. After you've been through that, if you have payroll in scope, you'll move into parallel running. Again, completely critical to the success of a project. If there is one thing that you don't want to get wrong in a project, is paying people. It's quite emotive. So really making sure that your payroll is on point, and then moving into going live. And then the final stages, and really what needs to be the golden thread all the way through your project, is how you're communicating and engaging your end users. I always encourage our clients to get your wider stakeholders groups involved from as early as possible. Have some representatives along the way who will work with you, and will advocate for the new system when it's time to go live. So landing your solution well, communicating well, and collaborating with the organisation all the way through will really mean that when your system goes live, it's well adopted, and the end users have a really great experience. So in a nutshell, those 4 or 5 steps really delivered in a really structured way means that you will have a really great, smooth implementation from start to finish.
We all know as well, of course, this process starts a little bit earlier, because there's a job to actually help vendor select in the first place before we even embark on that solution. You've got a great white paper called 12 Steps to Selection white paper, which we'll also make available. But it leads me to the point of, it's quite rare for me to bring 2 different clients into one show. So tell me a little bit about the collaboration between SilverCloud HR and Sage People, and some of the work that you're doing together.
So with Sage, we have 5 Sage People partners, of which SilverCloud is one of them. With our partners, we see them as an extension of Sage. So we work really, really closely. So I work really closely with Lou and her team at Silver Cloud to ensure that they fully embrace and understand what it means to be a Sage People partner, and also live our values. And we work really, really closely with Silver Cloud because they do that vendor selection that you're talking about, and they help customers with that, as well as having a section which also implements the likes of Sage People as well. So yes, we work really closely together on that.
Awesome. It's great to see collaboration within the sector regardless. And I think it's really, at Silver Cloud, as you mentioned in the introduction, you work with a number of different vendors to deliver different types of implementation. On the back of that, you created a great PDF which highlights some of the pitfalls and considerations that people need to consider in each stage of the implementation cycle. I know that listeners listen to this now, whether you work in payroll, whether you work in HR, they're going to want to know what some of these common pitfalls might be. So what are some of the common pitfalls and some of the considerations, perhaps the people that are involved in the implementations or considering implementations right now, from a user perspective or from an HR leadership or payroll leadership perspective, may want to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously through Silver Cloud, we've delivered a lot of projects and had a lot of learnings along the way with different sizes of organisations and different sectors. But despite all of that, there are most definitely some common pitfalls that we see that trend through all projects. And I think probably first and foremost is to really resource your project well. So sit down with your vendor and really understand what it's going to take to deliver a project. Now, having worked as a HR professional on the front line, so to speak, in earlier years, and also delivering projects, I understand how difficult it is to deliver the day-to-day, but also to really make sure a project's delivered well. And oftentimes it's not impossible, but it is too much. So if you can dedicate time and skills and knowledge from your existing teams, or if you're standalone, really carve out time in your day to dedicate to the project, it will make for all the difference in your success and the speed in getting your solution in, for sure.
Fantastic. I read in the in your guide actually that actually it's the resourcing side, which obviously put my ears up as a recruiter, that actually is often underestimated. So Charlotte, in your experience, where does this underestimation take place? What are the things that are often overlooked when it comes to the resourcing piece in terms of time or individuals that maybe need to be drawn into a project?
So I do think that some customers have a belief that they can implement the system along with their day job as well. And we know that the vast majority of people with their day job, they can be absolutely maxed. So it's really, really important that you get dedicated resource. And where we see it quite often, I suppose in terms of not having enough resource, is the project management side of it. Now, depending on what size your implementation is and how much you've got going on in your organisation, so it might be, so Sage People might form like a programme of work. I think it really is important to have somebody who project manages the implementation. And I know, we've lent on JGA a number of times for our customers where we've said, actually, you guys can help in terms of bring that project management experience that they need for their implementation. Likewise, we ask for somebody who can dedicate some time to being a system administrator as well. And what that means is that throughout the implementation, they will become enabled on the system. And then after the implementation, they will be able to carry on administering that system, because the last thing that we want is for a system to be implemented that you have to keep coming back either to Sage or Silver Cloud for ongoing help and support. Sure. So we really recommend you have that system admin person in place and they become enabled throughout the implementation so that they can carry on administrating the system going forward.
I think it's a great point. I think when it comes to project management, we see it, and as a recruitment agency, that a lot of people sometimes feel like they've got the skills. They don't necessarily want to hand them over to somebody else. Think, well, I could project manage this, but we underestimate just how much work is involved and how much skill is involved in a project management process. So there must be something that I guess sometimes you have to come across, and it's kind of educating to say, look, you've got enough on your plate already. We know that HR and payroll professionals are working, tirelessly at the minute to do what they need to do in their day job. So to add that project management piece on top without necessarily that specialist skill sets required to drive it is always going to be problematic for the success of a project. Just leaves me to say a huge thank you to you both for joining me today. The whistle stop tour to overcoming common pitfalls, thinking about all the considerations and best practice, things that we need to consider when implementing or going through an implementation. So thank you so much, Louise. Thank you so much to Charlotte. I look forward to bringing you the next episode real soon. Thank you.